All right, everybody's here, so we're going to get started. I'm Mike Roy, and this is Ben Roy, and we're RHR Real Estate. This is the company right here. If you want to talk to the boss, definitely him. But we've been in business since 2019 as a real estate company. We were house renovators since 2009, and the reason we opened our company was we felt we weren't getting the proper
value
from
for services from a real estate
Right.
agents that we would use when we flipped the house and sold it. We wanted, they weren't really listening to our needs. It was kind of, we felt it was they wanted to just quick, money for them. So we decided, we knew it as sellers that we wanted because we've done over 22 properties, flipping them. So we decided to bring those services to other people.
Right. And what we try to do is we try to listen to your needs when you're selling your house, especially with seniors. They have a lot of things that they're nervous about. There's a lot of questions. We've just done a woman in Leominster, and she's 97 years old.
Oh my gosh.
And
I'm not going to be here that long.
the one thing that she said to us was that she was afraid of staying in the house by herself at night. I never realized that until talking to her, that, that's kind of there's more concerns than just selling the house. So we try to listen to those things. So that's us right there.
Pull up at the top.
Oh, come on now. I made this. We're going to talk a few things. We have Gina Wilson from Pusacherry and Wilson and Christina Lashmer from Edward Jones. They're going to be speakers. So before we get into downsizing, decluttering, the whole thing, we want to have Gina come up and tell you a little bit about what you should probably plan for and whatever. So Gina, it's all you.
Oh, great. So, I'm Gina. I am an attorney in Fitchburg. I work with my brother. It's going very well. It really is, actually. I do focus in the area of probate and trust and estate planning. So I work with people who are getting ready, some of my clients, to downsize, to sell the family home, move to something that's smaller, more manageable, sometimes from a single family home to a condo, sometimes acquiring real estate in other states and keeping the family home. So there's a lot of different components that come along with that. So, the asset allocations that need to be considered, planning for potentially going into a long-term care or assisted living, and how to arrange finances and things like that to make successful applications, and dealing with family and all the support and advice that you sometimes get from those who are trying to help you make a good decision or a decision that they think is in your best interest can be very overwhelming. So helping to put together a plan that is, one thing, easy for you to execute and understandable to you and to your family so that everybody knows what's going on insofar as you want them to know what's going on, so that the questions and the concerns can be dealt with right up front, and that just helps to smooth the process out. So when you get into all of this packing and what am I keeping, and these guys will go over with you a number of different processes that will help you to decide what you're going to keep and what you're not going to keep, and maybe you're going to move something here and giving things away early, and everything that comes into the whole process, the mechanics of that portion of it, which I know just from working with them about. And we're just starting to go through that now with my mom, who's in that similar situation. So I'm really here to answer any questions you may have about trusts, about putting other people's names on assets, about the advisability of doing so, how different assets can be managed to help going through this process, financing the process, what to do with sale proceeds, things like that. So
I have a quick question.
I bet you do.
When should they start planning?
Yesterday.
That's right. That's right. Everybody, whether you're 55 or 105, the things that you do now to plan for the future are very important. There's a statistic that some of the housing right now is a 5-year wait on getting into a lease or whatever. So if you're thinking about doing something in 5 years, you really should be doing, applying different places. And that goes along with your legal status or your financial status. The sooner you plan, the better you'll be.
So
What's too late?
Okay, no, that's a very good question. It's something that you should do while you're still able to do it. And just from, personal experience, not even legal experience, we've missed that window with our mom. She's not able to make a move right now. There were a number of factors that played into the decision that has brought us to where we are, but nobody is immune from this. None of us are immune from the human condition. And whether you're planning for yourself or you're planning for a loved one or with a loved one, there are a number of different concerns that they have. We just lost my dad a couple years ago. The emotional toll that is on the surviving spouse when that happens, the emotional toll of then putting the house on the market, trying to pack that house, the memories and dealing with your own failing health and other issues that may be coming up. It's something to consider sooner rather than later, because waiting, you will get to a point, or can get to a point where it's too late.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What would the cost be to put your house into a trust?
Well, every lawyer's favorite answer is it depends.
Okay.
So there are many, many different types of trusts. And my last count with a colleague, this is what we do for fun, we came up with 37 that we could identify, and that's just the ones we can identify. So it depends on what you want to accomplish by putting your house into a trust.
Okay.
Typically, when I talk to people about this type of thing, they are looking either to avoid having the house go through the probate process. They're looking at putting a house into a trust so they can qualify or for mass health if they need to go into long-term care. Some people phrase it as protecting the house from the nursing home.
Yep.
Some of them want to make the house an income-producing asset during their retirement. They don't want to sell it, but they do want to move someplace else or acquire something else. So how can we manage this asset? So a trust or an LLC or a corporation, depending upon many different factors, are things that we would all talk about.
Okay.
So,
And if somebody's, I don't know if Heather told you or not, but I'm actually the director for the Clinton Council.
she did mention that, yeah.
They
So-
keep it in the family.
Yeah.
That's right. My parents were lawyers too, so, yeah.
Yeah, my son has my old job at the hospice. But like I said, we have a lot of our clientele will come in and they don't want the house to go to the nursing home.
Yeah,
So, and I know there's a 5-year look back.
yeah.
So it's like and they're like, well, when should we do that? I'm like, yesterday. You
Yeah,
should get
exactly.
it into a trust
Yeah.
yesterday because they're gonna look back 5 years. So if you had a stroke tomorrow, it's too late.
Right.
So, but a lot of them, it's like, well, I don't know how to do that, and if I go to a lawyer, it's $200 an hour, and I don't have that.
Yeah.
So that's their main thing, is like
The cost of it,
And if I
right.
could tell them, like, your initial visit is this amount, and then it's gonna cost them this amount to put your house into a trust.
Right.
Then it would make them feel, because even like talking to you right now, I'm like, well, I don't know if I can afford to do that.
Yeah. And that, no, it's a very, very good point. And I'll tell you that even with my own colleagues that do the same thing, we manage things differently.
Yeah,
So it's going to depend on who you talk to.
okay.
So we don't do that type of service on an hourly basis. It's a flat fee.
Okay.
So if you and I sat down and you said, this is what I have,
Yeah.
this is what I want to accomplish, I would tell you, well, we can do it this way, or this way, and this is what it's going to cost you. So
Okay.
you would leave knowing
All right.
what you were into
So that visit, when I
financially.
come to talk to you, you give me the options?
Yeah.
Is that visit a charge?
Well, that depends also. If you're just coming in for this, and what I typically would do is I would send you a form.
Okay.
I call it a questionnaire.
Yeah.
Fill out the questionnaire, please, and get it back to me before your initial consultation, because it allows me to prepare to answer your questions better.
Okay.
So if I know what assets you have, I know what issues are going to be presented in your situation, and I can be prepared to discuss those with you when you come in to see me. Under those circumstances, I would not charge you for that initial consult. But if you hired me, the cost would be, it's all
Rolled
lumped
into
in
the
there,
whole
yeah.
thing.
But if I don't have that opportunity
Yep.
to prepare, then I'm sitting with you gathering that information and asking you the
It's taking
questions.
Yep.
And it takes, you know,
Yeah.
an extraordinary
Time is money.
amount of time
Yep.
to get that. So I do have to charge
Right.
under those circumstances, yeah.
All right.
That's how.
So
I
that's
handle it.
something that I could offer to my 60
Mhm.
plus, that, you know, this attorney will do this for you.
Yeah,
You know, you fill out the questionnaire and she'll go over it with you and you can decide.
yeah,
what you
yes.
want. Okay. Yeah, good. Got that?
Any other questions on that at this
Your
point?
Concord house.
No,
Is that what you said?
no, Council on Aging.
Oh,
She's ahead of
COA.
this.
Oh,
She's ahead
of this
I thought you said you
COA,
ran
and
the
this one is
Concord
the
house. I'm like, well, by the time they're there.
Anyway,
Way too late.
I know, I was like,
After we've got,
too
yeah,
late to
yeah,
call.
that's
Yeah.
supposed to be
Okay.
too late.
Yeah, that's why I was
Yeah.
confused.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, so we can talk about that.
Awesome.
Yeah, how to put that all, get that all.
Because that's one of their big fears is, you know, they want the house to go to the kids
Yeah.
or the grandkids or, you know, things
And a
like
lot of them,
that.
they've worked all their lives and that's their biggest asset.
Right.
You know, that's their home.
Yeah,
And not only does it have the most financial value for some of them, but the most emotional value
Yeah.
to them and the family.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But you also have to remember to ask them if the kids want it.
Yeah, that's true too.
That's a big question.
Yeah, it is.
You know, don't.
I don't even think they care if the kids want it. I think they care that they don't want the nursing home getting the money. And I think that's one of their big things. And
Yeah.
a lot of them that are at the point where they need to go into nursing care are not, even though they need the care, because they don't want them to take the house.
Mhm.
So they're staying in an unsafe situation
Yeah.
because they don't want them to take the house.
Yeah, and there's a lot of misconceptions about what nursing homes can and can't do,
Yeah,
and especially while you're still living. So it's a good opportunity, you know, I'd be happy to come down and talk with them about that as well.
okay.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm here for the duration. If anyone has any questions, you can just shout them out. I'll be right over here. And, I mean, we could talk for hours, literally, and I have. Yeah. And those people don't talk to me anymore about all of these things, but,
Do you have a card you can leave with us?
Yeah.
They're
it's
in
in your
your
folder.
pamphlet, yeah.
It's hidden deep down inside.
That's what it is.
Yes, and my email is on
We
there.
have a lot of seniors that want to do their wills,
Yeah.
but don't want a local Clinton attorney doing it because they don't want them knowing their business.
Right.
So this would be good for them as well.
Yeah, I think just far enough away,
Yeah.
but not too far away.
Yeah.
And I do travel.
Good.
Are we looking at your before and after pictures?
Yeah, before, this is after. That was before.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just want to make sure your papers.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And now we're going to bring up Christina. Christina Lashmore is with Edward Jones, and she'll give you some insight on your financial planning.
Hi, thanks for coming. So like Mike said, I am with Edward Jones Investments. My office is actually in downtown Leominster. I am where the new Y is, if anybody knows where that is, over on Adams Street. There are several Leominster offices for Edward Jones, but that's where I am. But really what I'm talking about is, so I work very closely with Gina and some of her counterparts with the estate planning piece because, and I work with Mike, and because when people sell the houses, now you have this lump sum of cash, right, if you are downsizing. And then the question is, you don't just sell your house and then live in a tent, you have to do something, you have to move somewhere. So that's what I talk a lot with my seniors about as we put the retirement plan together, because essentially when you sit down with me, we're trying to figure out, what are you trying to accomplish? You know, are you living through retirement? How are you gonna fund your retirement? What are you gonna do after retirement? How are you passing your assets along? How are we protecting your assets, et cetera? And one of the biggest questions everybody has is, well, I'm just gonna sell my house. Okay, that's fine, but where are you gonna live? So then it's, oh, I'll buy another house. Well, if you sell your house and buy another house, now you don't have actually an asset to live off of. So that's what we help people try to decide is, if you're downsizing and you're able to sell a house for, you know, $600,000 and you buy a condo for $3, okay, you do have that $300,000 that we can now somehow turn into a stream of income. Some people don't want to buy another house and they want to rent an apartment. And if they're in their 80s, maybe renting an apartment makes more sense. And we're able to run all these projections based on what your expenses are and incomes, which actually makes more sense. And then of course, as you know, if we had this conversation a year ago, everybody like, I'm gonna put it in the market because I can make 20%. Well, now we're having a conversation, it's like, well, my money that's sitting in the market is actually down a significant portion potentially. And the markets go up and down. They always do. They've always gone down and they've always come back to hit new highs. I don't have my crystal ball, it broke, but I can assure you that these markets will come back. Is it tomorrow? Is it next year? Is it in 3 years? I don't know. Are we in a recession technically? No. But we did have 2 negative GDP quarters. Shouldn't that mean we're in a recession? Well, technically no, because manufacturing is still high, job growth is still high, wage growth is still high. So you look at all these different things, and we have inflation through the roof, but is inflation through the roof because of supply chain issues because of COVID, or is it through the roof because of the war in Ukraine? So all these different pieces. I don't know the outcome of that, but I do know when I sit down with my clients, I know what their purpose is, what their goal is, and I know what their personal risk tolerance is, and I put together a plan that takes into account any one of these factors. Arguably the last 6 months, or January to June, was the worst 6 months to be investing ever. So not only was the equity market down significantly, we also saw the bond market down. And you're always told, put bonds in your portfolio, they're gonna help cushion your portfolio. Well, when you see bonds down 8%, that's not a cushion. That's a brick that you don't wanna be on. So even the old 60% equities, 40% bonds, oh yeah, that's gonna save you. Well, that was down also, and that's what we saw these last 6 months. Now, things seem to have bottomed out, and July looks really strong. August is looking somewhat stronger. And we don't know because what the Fed's gonna do with interest rates, what's happening in Russia, what's happening with midterm elections, et cetera, all these unknowns, right? But if the last 6 months derailed your retirement plan, you probably didn't have the best plan put together, because 6 months should not make or break a plan. And that's where you really need to sit down with someone and know what your goals are. And like Gina, I kind of send, these are the documents I want you to bring. And inside that packet talks about how we work together, but it's a 5-step process. Where do you want to be? Do you want to stay in your home? If you want to stay in your home, let's figure out how you're going to stay in your home. Do you want to downsize your home? Let's figure out how we're going to do that. Do you want to protect your assets? We got to look at trust. Maybe we look at some sort of long-term care type of insurance if you're insurable. And then we kind of put together a plan. Can you get there? If you can't get there, how do we get you there? And then we monitor it. And we meet on a regular basis to make sure you're on that path. So we see these black swan events and we get these crazy markets. Are we still on track? Has anything changed in your life? What do we need to make changes on? How are we going to do that? So that's how I partner with everybody. A lot of questions I get, well, I bought my house, and if I sell it, don't I have to pay taxes on the gains of that, right? Capital gains tax. And capital gains tax is if you bought something for $10 and you sell it for $15, you made $5. You have to pay taxes on that. Primary residence since 1997, in the Secure Act, the first $250,000 for a single individual, $500,000 for a married couple, you do not pay capital gains taxes on that. So if you bought a house, right? So if you bought a house for $200,000 and you sell that house for $400,000 and you're single, you do not pay any taxes on that. Now, if you have a rental home or second house up in Maine that you decide you want to sell, and you bought it for $200,000 and you're selling it for $6,000, guess what? You're paying taxes on every single penny because you had to have been permanent residents in that house for at least 2 of the last 5 years. So that's the other rub on avoiding those capital gains tax. The other thing is if you bought a house and you put a ton of work into that house, you can add that to the cost basis. So it helps reduce that capital gain also. But I get a lot of seniors who might be scared to sell because they don't want to pay taxes on that money. They're not going to have to. Or if they do, it's only on that part above that $500,000 if they're married, $250,000 if they're single. So that's the biggest concern I always get from people. And then I always get, how do I protect my money, my assets from the nursing home? And that's when I say, you should talk to my friend Gina. Because those laws change all the time. And it used to be as simple as, well, I put it in my son's name. And if your life is very basic and that's all you have, maybe that still works. But maybe it doesn't. And then we get into a lot of second marriages with kids from both sides. So then you got to think about, how do you want those assets to be distributed? And that's where we're working with Gina and somebody like myself. So I look at myself almost like a quarterback, right? Here's the thing, but I want to get in my real estate specialists. I want to get my estate planners. I want to get my CPAs in there. It's almost like you go to your general practitioner, but they will send you to the different specialists. And that's kind of what we do and how we work with people. So, any questions?
How much do you charge?
Good question. To sit down for my initial consultation, it is all about the money. If you came to see me and said, Christina, this is my situation, this is where I want to be, and we go through the whole thing, and we put a plan together, I look, you say, you know what, your plan's pretty darn good. I don't see any issues with it. That costs you absolutely nothing. If you decide you want to work with me, There's different ways I charge. I can either charge on a fee base. So if I'm managing your fees, I charge a percentage of those fees. But I also work on a commission based. And it really depends on what your situation is. Everybody's different. I kind of lay it out. If we go this option, like Gina, if we go this way, this is what it's probably going to cost you. If we go this way, it's going to cost you this. If we go this way, it's going to cost you that. I do also help people purchase long-term care insurance. And that I just get a cut of, so I don't charge you for that. We go
That's
through.
good to know, because I don't know people that sell it.
Mm-hmm. So, and great question,
And
right?
there are fewer companies that are doing.
Well, I was just gonna say,
Stop.
traditional long-term care insurance isn't really sold anymore. So traditional long-term care insurance was, you came to me and you said, I don't want to private pay for my insurance. My assets are high enough that it's gonna take a lot of spend down to qualify for mass health. You say, okay, I need 5 years worth of coverage, right? Because that's the 5-year look back. So if you get the 5 years look, then you get your assets out of your name, and you look at that, and you say, okay, and on average, it's, $12,000 a month in Massachusetts. Believe it or not, that's what it costs to live in a nursing home right now,
Oh, yeah, a month.
right?
That's
So,
assisted living.
it's just,
Nursing homes are more.
well,
I thought it was running around 15, but that's.
it depends, right? We're a little
Yeah.
further from Boston, so it's a little cheaper.
Yeah.
It depends how private you want to be. But let's just say, you think about that's $150,000 a year, right? So you almost want like $600,000 worth of coverage. But long-term care insurance is just not for a nursing home. It can also pay for home health care. So if my husband hurt himself, I could not pick him up and take care of him. It would pay for an aide to help
I don't think
me
any of
without
us
that.
could pick up our husbands
No.
and take care of them.
And quite honestly, I don't think my husband could pick me up right now. So, so it could pay for that. So, right, so the money may last longer than 5 years because it may only be used for per diem, things like that. But a traditional policy is you paid for an X amount of money to last Y amount of time, and you paid $3,500 a year for the rest of your life until you needed it. Great. If you fell asleep one day and you didn't wake up, nobody got that money, right? Just like if we have homeowners insurance and our house burns down, we paid for it. If we fall asleep, if our house never burns down, we never got that money back. That was traditional long-term care insurance. The problem was when these companies were selling it, they didn't realize how long people were living and how long people were living in nursing homes. So they grossly underestimated. So they started raising premiums because inside the fine print in those contracts is they can raise premiums. So all of a sudden, we sat down 10 years ago and you paid $3,500 a year for 10 years or $35,000. Now you get a letter from the long-term care company and says, we're gonna raise your premiums to $4,200 a year. Or you can reduce your coverage, or you can just stop paying. Well, if you stop paying, there goes your $35,000, or you pay more, and you have to judge and look at those situations. So most companies, if not all of them, have gotten out of the traditional long-term care business because of that.
We have a John Hancock.
Yep,
You're familiar with that?
Very
one?
familiar. I have so much John Hancock
I don't even know if
policies.
they still do it, but you can take the cash
yep,
during while you're alive. So like if my
Yes.
husband's disabled or whatever, it's gonna be Kevin, it's not gonna be. We can draw off it from up to the limit. So you
Yes.
draw on it before you die, kind of.
well, that's what the long-term care, that's what long-term care policies are. But what you have is a hybrid.
How old you are when you got it.
Well,
Yeah,
not
I could do it
necessarily,
to
not
my-
necessarily. So you
younger.
kind of just jumped the gun on what I was gonna go to next.
Yeah, they totally.
So
do.
it's, the older you are, the greater your chance of ending up in a nursing home. Therefore, your long-term care insurance is more expensive.
Right.
But they've gotten out of those traditionals, and what you have most likely is a hybrid policy.
I think
So you have a policy that is a life insurance policy with a long-term care rider. So if you fall asleep, you and Kevin, or you walk out of here and a bus of penguins takes you guys out, someone will get that money.
Right, yeah.
If one of you becomes disabled, or even both of you, what they usually say is, let's say it's $300,000. They will say, you can get for the next 50 months, 2% of that $300,000, or we'll give you $6,000 a month for the next 50 months towards that. So that basically, if you think about that, that's 4 years. It gives you time to work with a Gina to get your estate planning house in order, and you're getting that money. It might not pay for the whole nursing home, but it pays for half of it, or it pays for that home health care and everything. If you pass away halfway through, someone gets that death benefit that's
What
left.
made me think of it is the numbers do change.
Yes.
When you said that.
Yeah.
They don't change like a ton.
No.
But,
Right.
one month it might be 400, another might be 425.
Well, that's
It
because
goes up and down.
because it's a whole life policy and it's using dividends from
Yeah,
John Hancock,
exactly.
so there's some pieces there. The other thing you can buy is a long-term care policy with a life insurance rider. So now you're buying more long-term care insurance, but if you pass away, someone actually gets it. Usually pay one lump sum. You put $100,000 into that. day one, you have about $400,000 worth of long-term care, or if you're a little bit older, less, right? The older you are, the less coverage you're gonna get.
Why
Why'd she point at you?
Because you brought it up, because you brought the age thing up. It has nothing to do with your age. You brought the age thing up.
I
But
am the oldest in the room, so.
the other piece is with those, the underwriting's different, right? So depending, if you're getting the life insurance with the long-term care rider, they're underwriting you like, are you gonna die soon?
Yeah, they.
With the long-term care, they're underwriting you like, are you going to stay in a home? So if you have a heart problem, you might get that because they're like, well, they're gonna pass away from a heart attack. Well, sure, we'll
We're
give them
good,
long-term
yeah.
care insurance because they're not gonna need it.
Jeez, that's-
So the underwriting is different, right? Usually the long-term care might even be done over the phone, where the life insurance is the full medical, physical checkup. So what I do is look at it and say, all right, let's figure out what are we gonna do? Right now, especially because interest rates have been so low and people have money sitting in the bank that they use to self-insure, I'm gonna use this money. Well, you get more bang for your buck if you actually can get 4 times worth of it for that long-term care. So
Wow.
that's what I'm able to help people figure out on that.
See, when I first got, now, you obviously pointed out that I'm obviously the oldest in the room.
Right.
And I've had long-term care for about 25 years.
Yep.
So when we got it, if you didn't get it before you were 55, you could forget it. Because the initial cost was going to be too high.
Well, and that's funny because now I don't even recommend it till you're at least 55.
Yeah,
Because
which is
you'd be
really
paying for
interesting.
so long, kind of thing. And then if you do get it super young, you want to get an inflation rider. Because the cost goes up with inflation. Because if you bought it for what you thought 25 years ago, and with no inflation rider, it might not cover you. So that's what we're able to help. We're also able to look at old life insurance policies. Here's the beauty, right? People who bought old life insurance policies, huge cash value. They don't really need life insurance anymore, but they could use long-term care insurance. We're able to convert those into the new hybrid policies. So those are all the different things that we can look at to help people. On top of, if a senior was downsizing and they had an extra $100,000, we could turn that into long-term care insurance, some sort of leverage on that too. So there's all these different options. But yeah, so very long answer to how I get paid.
But you're very informative.
Does anybody else have any other questions?
That's great.
All right, well, please, I'm gonna be sitting next to Gina, so we can pipe in when we need to.
Yeah.
And out of personal experience, my parents, I ended up buying my parents' house, and it's the house I grew up in. They bought it in 1978, and they never threw anything away. And,
I've been trying to, but my kids won't let me.
oh,
I
I'm the
still
exact
have Barbie doll
opposite.
houses.
Oh, no, I would have burnt that stuff if I could have. And my parents, when we bought the house, didn't clean it out because the house they were moving into, their closing kept getting delayed. So literally the same moving truck brought our stuff to that house, emptied it, and then picked stuff up from my parents' house. But it was, oh, we'll pick that up later, we'll pick that up later. Like they
Never
left,
happens.
they left the litter box. We don't have a cat. So just all those things. And then unfortunately, when we were moving stuff into my dad's basement, my mom and dad's basement, my husband's like, why are we doing this? And I was like, listen, regardless if we bought the house or somebody else did, we'd still be doing this. And so we may as well. And then as I'm moving things down, I'm like, in 20 years, I'm going to move this stuff out. He's never going to touch this stuff. But fortunately and unfortunately, my mom ended up passing away less than a year later. And I think if my dad hadn't gotten out of there with my mom, it would have been so much harder to get him out. So it's one of those, it is time to start thinking about it. And they have awesome ideas that I wish I had known about when we were trying to get my dad out of that house. So definitely
I do
listen.
have one problem with seniors my age, and I'm 77, that they think it's the responsibility of their kids to look after them.
Yes.
And I think that is probably the most selfish thing you can possibly do.
So I agree.
And it just screws me into the ceiling. I get really vocal on this one. It's not the kid's responsibility, it's your responsibility.
Well, and it's funny because, keeping everything in the family, my dad was a financial advisor also. So just kind of, I'll keep it in the
So
family.
he knew better.
And one of those things people would always say, I can't afford long-term care insurance. And they'd say, well, then ask your kids to pay for it. Because
Yeah.
are they going to want to take care of you? And so even when my dad left his job, he's like, you and your brother can start paying for my life insurance if you want that. I'm not going to pay for it anymore, but you can keep paying for it. And he and I are like, no, we're good. But, it's one of those, and my dad and I have a very good agreement. He will not be moving into my house because he does not want to move into my house and I do not want him moving into my house. That makes us happy.
But it's getting people to realize it's not it's their responsibility, not their children.
I mean, children, I think, well, I took a course in long-term care insurance, and one of the things they said is, when you need long-term care, especially if it's a memory situation,
Yeah.
your life doesn't end, but someone else does. But I would rather be able to say, hey, Dad, I got you in this beautiful place, I've taken care of you, I've worked with a case manager, and the bills are all paid for, than me try to figure out how I'm gonna take care of him. So that's,
That's a good point though, but you don't need life insurance, I mean, your mom passed.
right.
Why is
But
he
you know,
paying
once
for his
you're
own life
55, life
insurance to
insurance,
give
it
to
gets
his
more
kids?
People always come to me and
Yeah.
ask, do I still need this life insurance?
No.
And the question is why?
Get your cash
Sometimes
out. Yeah.
estate planning issues, and Gina and I have talked, sometimes you use it for estate planning issues. If you have over that $1 million in Massachusetts, $5 million, you can build trusts that help bypass, that the life insurance pays for. But that's a very complicated situation. But for the basic just, I have life insurance
You
because
don't
I want to
need
leave
it.
it to my kids, no, absolutely not.
You're absolutely
Absolutely
not.
not, so.
Yeah.
Any other questions, I'll be with Gina in the peanut gallery.
Thank you.
And we'll open it up to questions after we're done, and then
Yeah.
we'll have cookies and.
Because we have to see the rest of your thing that you
That's,
put
that's
together.
right, he's so proud of this.
I know, I can't, I know. Never
Hey,
remember your
hey, I could have had a
father.
screen, it would have been hot. All right, so now if you get to the point where you're ready to sell your house, and you have things in the house, clutter, or just a lot of different things, we can help you out with that. You can throw some stuff away in the trash, you can donate, you can rehome, or you can keep, you know? And a lot of people, again, we had another client. I'm gonna use old clients because it was kind of funny. We had this woman in Leominster, and she had tons of stuff. But she wanted to sell the house right away. So Ben went over and he goes, she won't even let me upstairs.
She didn't let me upstairs.
Oh, she didn't want you to say.
So she wanted me to come over and do a full analysis of her house and, you know, what it would be worth if we sold and everything. But she did not let me upstairs. She was so embarrassed that she had so much stuff. And what it was all brand new clothes with tags on them. They were all nicely laid out, but she
She's a
had
hoarder.
a ton of them.
And it wasn't bad hoarding. It wasn't like what you
It was
see on
clean.
TV.
It was like clean hoarding, but it was
Yeah.
hoarding, you know? Yeah, so we run into all different situations and we don't want anybody to be embarrassed of their situation.
The funniest thing about that woman was, we have what we call a senior move specialist that'll come in and help somebody get their stuff moved around and packed. So she had a pod at her house to put the stuff in. So 3 days of the senior move specialist being over there packing things, did not throw one thing away, but they filled the pod. So when the house went on the market, because we do videos and photos and, you know, all professional, her granddaughter goes to the woman, she goes, Grammy, where'd all your stuff go? You know, so it was kind of funny.
Her granddaughter saw the video online and was like, your house looks like a completely different place. And she just cleared it out, you know, she just had help. But I want to go back to something we alluded to earlier is rehoming this stuff. And a lot of people will have tags or the kids will say, hey, I want this, but they never come and get it. So one of the things that I always say is set a hard date. If they miss that hard date and they don't come and get it,
Right, like you said, you have a lot of stuff that your children don't want you to get rid of.
Yeah, like Barbie house.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. Set a hard
I
date.
can't, my kids are over 50 and I'm still keeping their
Right.
Barbie house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, those are worth a lot of money.
Oh, really?
No, but what we do is we tell people have an airs night. You know, have everybody come over, get the little yellow stickies, put their name on it, and say, okay, this is yours, this is yours, this is yours. You have to have it out by X, and that way it alleviates some of the pressure when you're really ready to go.
Here's nice. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just.
That'll be good.
That's right, yeah. Have a dinner out of it.
So I am a real estate senior specialist, and we'll help you map out a plan to get to the point of selling your house, okay? Whatever that is, I mean, it's different for everybody. We'll set the priorities, or you set the priorities, you tell us what's important to you, and we'll try to make that happen. We evaluate renovations.
If needed.
We have another thing called Fix It to List It, which we'll go into in a couple of minutes, that tells you how we can help you get that done. Suggest resources. So if you're moving out of state, let's say you're going to Florida or you're going to North Carolina or Phoenix, Arizona, the SRES is a group of realtors that specialize in this. So if you want some information on something out in Colorado, in a specific area, I can get somebody for you to talk to out there that deals with senior issues, okay? We also will help you with local things. If you're looking to relocate or find an apartment or, just moving locally. The thing that I found interesting after talking to most of these senior housing, there's a 5-year waiting period to get into some of these senior housings. If you go into subsidized housing, and there's some nicer subsidized housings out there, the private ones are nicer. There could be 5 or 6 years waiting. So really, we'll give you a broad view of what's out there, but if you're thinking about doing it, now is the time to start maybe applying, even though you're 5 years out. By that time, you'll be able to have something to come to. All right, where are we going now? All right. All right. The senior move specialist is very good. She's been in the business a long time, so she'll come in and help you declutter, organize, pack it, whatever you want to do.
Is her name Heather Goodsell?
She might not know.
You can't have her. I'm sorry, she's mine.
That's what she does.
Does she do it?
Oh, yes.
There you go, you just
And
need
she's
to
really good at it.
Do you help
But
people out?
she cannot go work for you.
Oh, nice.
No.
So, and these things are important. Now, most of the people have family, some people don't have family. So, if you don't have somebody that can help you, we highly recommend this, and it works very well. The keep, donate, recycle, discard, again, unpacking, they'll even go to your new place and help you unpack. They'll set a plan up, they'll do a floor plan, so they know that your furniture's gonna fit in there, which is a nice feature. And they also do designing and things like that. And they'll work with your family. So if you have somebody that's, let's say your kids are very busy and they can't be there all the time, they can guide the specialist to do what they can't do. So, all right, we're moving right along. You didn't ask me the cost.
I'm assuming it's rolled into the sale of the house.
No, it's independent, so, it's probably runs about $75 an hour with 2 people to do it,
Okay.
because they're literally packing things up.
And while you're talking, my brain is going to certain individuals that I'm aware of at this time.
Oh, yeah.
Who need things like this. So,
Yeah, I mean-
like I said, my brain is rolling.
And that's not saying that it can't be rolled into the end
The
result
sale.
of the sale.
Right.
If somebody's strapped for cash and
Yeah.
needs help getting it done, again, it's just us. We are building this company, and we want to make it as good for people as possible.
It's easy and seamless, because when you're selling a house, it can be pretty overwhelming. So we can work with people in different situations, but typically that service, it's not through us, so it's not, it's not an RHR only thing. It's another company that kind of come in and does it. So you would pay them separately, but if someone was really strapped for cash, we could work with them.
And anybody we recommend to you is going to be vetted through us. We've used them before, We're not going to let them take advantage of you. That's not what we're here to do. We're here to, this is all a team effort that everybody's using to get you to the point of, an easy transaction. So now, this is the exciting part. Getting ready to list your house. That's the exciting part for us.
I want a tiny house.
You want a tiny house?
I do. It's
Do you?
my dream.
Yeah.
We just sold one in Lunenburg. It was like 800 square feet.
Did you really?
Yes.
I kind of want 6.
600 and under is technically what a tiny house is.
Yeah.
No, is it? Okay.
I want to
She
build a
wants it really
community.
tiny.
I know, I want to build a community of tiny houses and have one storage center in the middle, right?
Yeah. Put your Christmas stuff in
Yeah.
or take it in and out.
Exactly.
Or it might just be a storage container.
Right there.
I'm your first.
I love it.
Heather, you're moving. So your house is ready to list. This is the first one. Your house is in good condition to great condition. The interior and exterior is nice, it's well staged. You know, we do little things for you. But your house is ready to go. That's the one that you can put on the market right now, and you know it's ready to go. We have a unique product that we call Fix It to List It. And from being in the business so long doing the rehabs, we've developed some great relationships
Contacts and relationships with
contractors.
different, builders, contractors, whatever you want, who again, we touched on this earlier, we trust them, we vetted them, they do good work, they do it for a fair price. A lot of seniors who we spoke to in the past would say, you know, I called this plumber in and, you know, they really charged me crazy amounts. So we have an idea of what things would cost, and we trust these vetted people. Again, we don't get anything off the top of that. They don't pay us a percentage of giving them a recommendation. We just want to make the processes smooth and easy for everybody else to get to the final goal, which is selling the house and moving into your next stage of living.
And this helps our contractors out too. They're loyal people that we've used for years. And if we can give them some business at a fair price, it really works out well for everybody. If you try to get a plumber just off the phone book,
Yeah,
you know,
good luck getting to your
$800
house.
right, to come out to your house.
They can't get them to
It's
come here.
insane.
Right.
They're too busy.
So, right.
So we coordinate that. Again, I like the analogy of the quarterback, is we kind of coordinate what you may need and try to get, you know, our trusted people to at least call you back and get in the house and give you a fair price and, you know, do.
And we've been doing it for a while, and the people that have used it love it. I mean, the guys that come in, they, you know, the electrician will come in and do the smoke detectors at a very reasonable price. You know, you still have to pay, but everybody has to pay. right?
So they would pay for this at time of service?
Yes, yep. I mean, now, let's say you have a septic system, it was 40 grand. We can negotiate with them, you know, I mean, and if we tell a guy, look, they're gonna be closing in 30 days, can you wait for some of that, maybe not all of it, but we would do that, you know, we would talk, we'd figure that out. We wouldn't want you to have to be strapped or in a position where you can't do it, you know.
Yeah.
We're willing to help you out.
We always think there's a solution to any
Well, I'm
problem.
just thinking of one of my residents right now who just, we had gone through like a rehab kind of thing where they put new steps on the front.
Yeah.
But regardless, she's not safe to be there.
Sure.
So, like I said, but the house is in need of attention.
Yeah.
So, but like I said, I know there's no funds
Mhm.
to do any of that.
Yeah, and you know, we look at renovations as, you know, where is the money gonna, you know, what kind of money are you gonna make on that renovation? We're not looking to go in and rehab their whole house.
Right.
Right.
Because that's too much money for the return.
So a lot, and we'll touch on this a little later, a lot of what we do in that situation, we would go in and analyze a house, evaluate it, and, you know.
You're
if-
jumping ahead of the slide.
I know. But if there's
I wanna
no,
know.
if there's no money, if they don't have any money to put into the
Every
house,
generation.
I know.
we can
those
always
millennials.
sell it as is. You know, we can always list it as is.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, especially in this market that we were currently in, we're transitioning out of a little bit. That's the best situation.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you know, with the fix it to list, you have major issues, minor issues, and we can do both of those. I mean, if it's a septic system to a porch falling down, a new roof, things like that, I mean, it's just all over the globe. It's like anything else. There's so many things to do. But we do look at the value. You know, we want to make sure you can get the best value for your home. So, like, if we look at a house that's in bad condition, let's say, we would try to get it up to standards where it would be financeable through FHA or VA or, you know, different programs which would increase your buyer volume, get more eyes, and bring the value up. All right, if you have a house that doesn't go FHA, you're probably losing about 2/3 of the market, you know, that would go look at it. I mean, we were lucky because the market's been hot, so. Then you can also list your house as is. Now, our strategy is to get you the most money. That is basically our strategy. I mean,
Our goal.
Our goal.
Yeah.
But we do strategize about it because there's so many different ways to look at it. If you have a house that needs a lot of work, we're going to try to talk to you about pricing. all right? So we'll try to tell you, maybe if we bring the price down a little bit from where the actual market value is, what's gonna happen is you're gonna get a lot of people coming in, and that'll bring the price up. That's what's been happening. The prices have been being pushed up, and trying to find a house in a lower market is hard. But if we get it to FHA, government standards, that increases all those buyers to come in. So that's basically what we're gonna do. We're gonna look at every option for you and try to explain it as we go. The next thing is you can sell it to us for cash.
We haven't been doing that too much
No,
in this hot
the
market,
prices are
right?
too high, but that was
So-
one of the things we do as we were rehabbing.
That's where RHR comes from. We were originally Roy's Home Rehab, and now we're RHR Real Estate, so that's what the RHR stands for.
We evolved.
Right.
This house might be a good one for you to rehab.
Yeah.
It's a nice neighborhood.
We'll take a look at it, yeah.
All right, is it that house right there?
It's a little smaller.
Oh, okay. So RHR, really, we designed this about a year and a half ago, maybe?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and what happened was we went to a house, the guy's mother passed away, and he was from South Carolina, and the house had the boiler break, there's water everywhere,
Floors were buckling.
so
Yeah.
we went in and we, went in and fixed it. So he could get it fixed for about $5,000, bring it back up to the value. So he was very happy. So his house sold for I think he had an offer of $150 from We Buy Ugly Houses, and it sold for $275. So, that's the difference. We can make things
It
happen.
wasn't this house.
No.
I stole those on the internet. I don't have the copyright. Gina, don't get me in trouble. So, how it works is you give us a call and you say, hey, I have a house and I want to sell it, need some work. Can you come over and take a look at it? And that's what we first have to do. So once we look at it, we're going to come up with a scope of work, and you'll receive a plan to prepare. Okay, so we're gonna lay it out for you what we think has to be done. We're also going to have our contractors give you a budget number. It might be an estimate, but it's going to be close. Okay, if you agree, then we'll move forward and get actual hard numbers and get this thing rolling. And we can move fairly quickly. We can get this home ready because we have everybody lined up, within a month and a half, maybe 2 months, depending on how much work there is. So it's really a great program. Again, we're not getting anything from this, okay? We're giving our contractors to you that we trust, that we've used, that we've paid them thousands of dollars in the rehab business. So, to get a plumber in to do your sink, he's not going to charge you the $800. He'll probably come in at $350. Or the smoke detectors, some guy would probably charge you $500, $600 to put the smoke detectors in. Our guy's going to be less than that. And if they're not, we won't use them again. Honestly, that's how we work it. So that's our Fix It Ballistic program. And, we're having technical difficulties.
So this is just an example.
Now, you gotta admit, this is so much better than
That's great.
a screen, right? This is
Yeah.
like
I think
holding-
if he had his way, he'd have a screen.
he would have.
Well, yes, I think I would. But he had a good point where in all different types of buildings where like this one, it looks like it has a very nice projector screen, but it's not always the way, so.
And plus,
Also,
you can read this, it's
Right.
readable, so there you go. All right, so the Fix It to List It sample plan, why don't you take over this? 'Cause
This is just an example of what we were talking about of scope of work. If you need your roof wash or a new roof or whatever, we would come up with a task list. We would have the contractor come out and then give us a hard estimate. That way you would know what the costs were for different things. Now you can approve or disagree with anything. It's all malleable, I guess.
the major thing is you're the boss, okay?
Right.
Honestly, you are the boss.
Yep.
And you can tell us yay or nay or, whatever you want.
Yep.
And we do follow that. If there's an issue, when we get into the process of selling your home, there's always issues that come up. Okay, whether it's the buyer wants something else after we sign the offer, whatever comes up, we try to explain it fully, okay? So if you have like 5 or 6 offers coming in, we go through each offer step by step so you'll understand it. To us, we see it a lot, but some people have not sold a house in 40 years, so. And there's a lot of different things now out there. Appraisal gaps, meaning that if they buy the house and the appraiser doesn't come in, they're gonna take it, or they waive the inspection, or, just so many different things out there that have changed. All right, so we have that task.
So our whole goal is to suggest things to get you the best return on your investment, right? So if you come in and you say, well, I was thinking about putting a whole new kitchen in here, but it's passable, it's clean and everything, it's probably not gonna get your money back putting a brand new kitchen in there. You might get only 80% of what you spent. So that's our whole goal, is to kind of give you a list of things to get you the best and biggest return on your investment without losing money.
And the things about doing rehab, you never want to open up that wall. It's like this big monster, this big money monster that's out there. You don't know if the pipes are broken. You don't know. When you open up a wall, it's like, it could be a problem.
Can people really pass on requiring an inspection?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. This past 2 years, it's been so many buyers, so little inventory, that people are so hungry that they say, I don't care what the condition of the house is. They like the location or something. They'll waive inspection. They'll, like you said, appraisal gaps. There's all sorts of crazy things.
They waive the mortgages. I just had a woman. We listed a house. She loved the house. She came to see it. She didn't have a realtor. So what we do in a case like that is he represents the seller and I'll represent the buyer. And she wanted the house. I told her, you should at least have it inspected. So what they did was informational purposes only, which really doesn't matter, because if something's really bad with the house, either you're not going to buy it and whatever.
Yeah.
But she loved the house, so she waived that. She waived the appraisal, and luckily everything's worked out fine. Everything went good, but
there are some horror stories out there.
Yeah, and that's our job, is to try to protect you as much as we can. We build in as much protection for our clients as possible. Things happen. Luckily we haven't gotten into a situation where a horror story happened with us, but you hear of them,
We try to cover the bases for you, If we have 4 or 5 offers on the table and they're all 20 grand over what you were asking for, what do we look at next? We look at terms and conditions. Is somebody putting down 5%, somebody putting down 20%, somebody putting down 300,000, which happens. We have a lot of people coming in from Lowell and Lawrence that own multifamilies. And we did an open house in Fitchburg, and 3 people came in and they had like $400,000. So I said, how did you get $400,000? Well, we bought this multifamily 6 years ago in Lawrence for $150,000. We just sold it for $650,000. I'm like, I wish I would have bought it. I should have bought 4 or 5 of them. So that is our program. The only thing I want to say is that if you need us, just give us a call. There's no obligation to anything that we do. When we do a listing, we give you the free video and
so it's not a la carte. Like some companies will say, okay, you have to pay for a video, you have to pay for it. It's all under the same commission. And we're very competitive with commission, and we do a really good job of marketing. That's kind of my area, is I hire a professional company to do all the photos, all the videos. We even do room layouts.
We even stage virtually sometimes.
Yep,
we have a
virtual
house,
staging, drone footage, and then right now marketing is done mainly online, right? So we market it online everywhere. We spend good money to boost it, Google ads and stuff out to different areas. So that's where I come in and do most of that legwork. But yeah, I think we do the best job for one commission, one price. So,
yeah.
I used to sell real estate years ago, and it was like, I think our commission was like 5%, and like 2.5% went to the broker, and you got the other 2.5% kind of thing.
Yep.
What is the percentage now?
So there's no locked-in percentage. There's no set standard, right?
Right. But there's an average.
There's an average, yeah. So I would say, it's somewhere between 4 and 6% is what we're seeing.
Okay, so it's still in that area.
It's still about roughly in that ballpark. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
And
and
it's
when-
typical to have a commission split, so out of that 5%, 2.5 and 2.5 is.
Yeah.
kind of-
And that too is determined by the area where you're selling. You know, like if you're in the 700 to 800, maybe $1 million price range, we see that the commissions are 5% because the other brokers won't show them. Do you know what I mean? They want to make their money. But we normally will charge 4% because we figure that's enough money, especially with the value, you know, with the prices going high. You know, that covers us.
Yeah.
Well,
And,
get volume.
Yeah.
Right.
Pick up on that into.
The only time we'll charge more than that is if we do come in and something needs major work and we really undertake a lot of almost like a GC without being a GC, you know, coordinating and stuff, then we'll say, okay, well, we did, you know, a ton of work here, we spent a lot of time here, so we raised up the commission a little bit.
Yeah, for example, if somebody has a house from out of state, it's their parents' home, and the daughter or the son says, hey, I want to sell this house, I don't want to do anything.
You do it.
Yeah, we'll do it.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, really, that's
Yeah.
what it is, so.
So the other take-home message too is develop your team, you know, develop your network. We would all love you to use us, but if you don't and you're starting to think about this process, don't wait because you're supposed to start it yesterday. And yeah, develop a team who can work closely together. So it's not just one-stop shop,
Right.
you know.
And just two other things that I like to pass along, which really are about selling, but it's the getting affordable housing, or you know, if you're looking at places, most of the housing is income-based, not asset-based. So if you sell your house for $400,000, $500,000 and you have a big lump sum of money, you still can qualify for some of the public housing things. The other thing is the VA. My father was a veteran, and he got Alzheimer's. And we didn't know that he was eligible for veterans benefits. And a gentleman that I was working with in the mortgage industry back a while, he says, go to the VA. And they took care of everything. So those are important things that I don't think a lot of people know about. And we'll try to add more and more and more and more. So we want to thank you for listening to us, and we appreciate it.